to cut you off, but I just wanted to let you know that it's getting streamed to a little bigger channel right now. So, yeah, just so you know.
Oh, well, I already said all my good stuff. Man,
well, then you can go back on the Friday morning name list and get the real dirt on Mark S.
Yeah,
all the real stuff. So if you're tuning in,
it was only like 2 minutes worth, but that's all I got.
You covered a lot of dirt in 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, let's start with how about...
So here's Tayo. He just got in here.
I'm here today on the meaning code with Tayo.
Timmy Tayo, Timmy Tayo. What's up, brother?
Tayo, and of course this fella, and they had an event in Birmingham. So tell us about the event.
It was in a secret place. It said right on the sign, "We are a secret bar."
What is it about our society that isn't giving us a healthy balance? Yeah, I've been Elson. Yeah. Estuary Leadership Support Network. I DM'd Paul when after the conversation you two are talking about estuary and the idea of it, and it felt like a chance to be part of this cool little underground thing that's in this little corner of the internet that's going on, and I thought it was important. It's a 2,000-year-old conversation, and PVK always talks about people take the Bible and do very weird and interesting things to it. I find it difficult to find spaces where I can truly be myself. I can fit into almost any space without a problem, but expressing all of my ideas without feeling judged I don't find those spaces often.
It strikes me that's amazing. That was the first sort of formal estuary meeting that you guys have had here in the UK.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Congratulations, guys.
And we were there, and you were not.
And I was not.
So was that the first international estuary ever? Maybe excluding Canada.
Could be. So that was early on, and that was the first time I met Tayo personally, and yeah, because Tayo had already been in Vendonk's Elsnet groups, and Tayo was starting meetings all up and down England. So yeah, pretty cool.
I got a couple others I'll play. This one's shorter.
Let me just jump in front of him because I will give you a lot of materials to make fun of him. The "we're just playing" thing is a code word. It's never just play. That's like a kayfabe that you tap into to coexist. I.e., there are rules of engagement to the game that we're playing. We can ignore those rules, like pretend that they're not there because we're just playing. But in actuality, those rules show their head in the form of the people we decide to play with or not play with.
Yeah, so I made it a strange point when I started getting involved in the TLC that I had favorites, that I was willing to specifically go after individual people to make friendships and build relationships. And so when I was thinking about this event, so Tayo did, I can show this really quick. Tayo did with Chad a conversation with, you should go ahead and share. It was with Elizabeth Oldfield. And, you know, we were trying to get Elizabeth Oldfield to Midwestuary, and she probably had the weakest ties of any of our guests because you could say, well, Rod Dreer doesn't know TLC, and that's true. However, he's got Kale, and Kale is going to reel him in. And so Chad's like, you know what? Tayo would be great with Elizabeth Oldfield. They're both English. Tayo might have even met her in person. I don't know about that. But, and then right after that, we get Elizabeth Oldfield signs, you know? And so it struck me, that was just one reason, but it struck me as it would be really strange if Tayo was a major part of like one of our major guests coming to Midwestuary and he himself was incapable of attending because it's expensive to fly from the UK here. And the other thing I noticed in my, year within the TLC thus so far is like Tayo started out and just going back, because I'd been lurking. I think I started lurking right around the time when Tayo really came into the corner. but he went from just a participant to, and I remember, you know, him doing that first estuary in London. I remember this one. Where is it?
Okay, you can say do all the thinking, talking thing, but do something about it. Actually, take some action.
I have to thank Tayo because Tayo's been organizing everything for the trip.
No, but seriously, if Tayo organized PVK's trip, then can we not do a little bit of organizing for Tayo's trip?
Do something about the things that you're thinking and talking about.
Yeah, all right. Then let's actually do something about it. You know, if we say we care about other people, and Tayo is about as TLC as you get, then let's get him to Midwestuary 2025.
That is something great to put on the table. I look forward to us chewing on that.
Because the question is always like, who's TLC? And then how do we express the care that we care about other people in this space? And it's tricky in church too, right?
It is. It's very tricky. I'm doing stuff. That's why I'm you know, that I jumped in here to do the thing and stuff. And Mark was the one talking. So, but yeah. And then I saw and Tayo does so much for the movement. He really does. And both of my trips to England, he and John Lungar, I mean, those guys, you know, filled up my calendar. And I've got a video. It'll release at 1 a.m. California time, but that's 10 a.m. Netherlands time, where Cassidy and I will talk about the upcoming trip. And I'll be going to the Netherlands. I'll be going to Germany, and I'll be going back to England and doing another estuary event there. And I'm going to try and do some estuarying in I have to see how the whole ARC thing is set and who the speakers are and which talks I'm going to ditch, and then what I'm going to do estuary in their back room. So, yeah. And, you know, if I can ever get the Sacramento events off the ground, you know, Phlebas asked about camping. You know, my opinion is I've had many people camping at Living Stones for years, and the city has never minded. In fact, when I'd want the city to do something about it, they wouldn't. So what if a few of my friends camp a few nights? How bad can that be? So
Are you for ARC, are you already arranging people to participate in estuary events?
Well, Cassidy and Tayo are working on events around ARC, but during ARC itself, no. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'll have a long plane flight to think about it. So,
yeah, cool.
But you know, at the last ARC, I spent a lot of time, you know, like with Rafe Kelly and a couple other people. Just they had a kind of reception area. Then they had the area where they're doing all the thinky talky. After a few, got a little tired of the reception or the thinky talky. And so just had a lot of good conversations, meeting people, you know, people who had watched the channel, people who, you know, a lot of people who had watched the channel, and I didn't have a lot of access to me because of various things. And so you get to know them. And for me, that's really the heart of these trips, is just getting to know people. And of course, I can't remember everything. I can't remember everybody's name or anything like that. But building connections, and at ARC, you tend to meet people. So there are sometimes the YouTube celebrities, and then there's sometimes the producers and the editors and the people who work for the YouTube celebrities, because some of these bigger channels are, you know, little businesses. Some of those people are really interesting because they give me a lot of insight into what's going on in the big channels. So I should put you up here. So when I look at you, I look at you by this camera.
Sure.
All right, there we go.
Yeah,
I feel bad because I feel like I sort of derailed this thing.
No, you're the perfect
Wow,
person.
you brought it on some rails.
I wanted to ask what we were starting to talk about this question, which is like, what is it specifically about? So for it's definitely the people, but what is it specifically about the people of TLC that has bound Mark and I? And that's a question that we were, because Mark started talking about kindness. And I think that's true. And there's a spirit of welcoming and winsomeness that I think Tayo embodies better than just about anyone, except for one. There's one better embodier, and that's Ron Copperman. For your audience.
Yeah.
I love
I
Ron.
I always talk about how nice of a guy Ron is.
I love Ron.
He will just be with somebody that he completely agrees with and still be the nicest guy in the world. Be like, I think I'm gonna push back a little bit, and like I don't know how he does it. I study him every time he's on. You know, he's but I think kindness is. I mean, it's just like the best word I could use. You know, it's because it's not the same as nice. You know, it's like people here are nice, but they're not that nice. You know, they're not like, oh, you know, like not like a nice church lady or something. There's something else. I don't know. Because I had mentioned that, I don't know if you heard it, but like I kind of swore off internet arguments a while ago, and I hadn't had an argument on the internet in a really long time. And then in the TLC, I've had a couple, and they were just different. They were just different than all the arguments I've had on Facebook and Twitter, in a way that it was like not very disrespectful and more just two people really trying to hone in their arguments rather than trying to win and trying to own the other person. And there was something about that. Like I had an argument, just a good old fashioned Protestant versus Catholic argument with somebody, and it lasted a while. And then afterward, it was like, I still like that person, and I'll probably talk to him again, like not even about this, you know? And I don't really understand what is different here, you know? Maybe it's just because I'm a little older now. I'm 41, and I'm not like full of anger as much as I used to be, and maybe or maybe people are just getting. Maybe I'm not old, but I mean I'm young enough to know that like arguing on the internet is kind of also a waste of time. After like after a certain point, it's like, and so I don't know, maybe other people get that, and there's a way to go about it that's more profitable than just trying to win an argument in front of some audience and get likes and ad hominems and everything. And so that's one thing that struck me about the TLC. And I'm sure there's been plenty of gossip and drama other than that, but just my experience is like, oh, it's okay, you know? It's like it's not gonna kill me to like disagree with people, you know. So
I think you're right. I think that is part of because the impulse to argue is natural, and it's not a bad.
I don't think so. I'm
You
just
don't think
kidding.
it's natural?
I'm just kidding with you. I was arguing with you.
Came here for an argument.
Well said.
And I think, you know, we understand the fruitlessness of much of it. And a lot of the fruitlessness is the disconnection. That you're going to jump into a room, have a rando spat with someone and never see them again. Or you're going to see them again and then you're never going to talk to them, or you're going to basically try to destroy their reputation, or you're going to tag them or something like that. And that's, I think more of what we have been getting at is, okay, so Neil is raised in a Presbyterian church and he becomes a Catholic, so he should be my enemy. No, I'm glad that Neil has, and if it is the Catholic Church that has been helpful for Neil in terms of finding his faith and practicing his faith, even if he remembers the good Protestant song "Amazing Grace." We
sing that.
I think part of what we want is to have these conversations. And again, a lot of this grew out of wanting to have the conversation in a productive way. And, you know, I was revisiting the live stream with Luke and Sam and Sarah and Trip. And those four should be disagreeing with each other all over the map. But they have this super secret little chat thing whereby they go round and round and round and round. And then they bring CW in, who ostensibly left the corner for 5 years, and me. And then we talk about these things. And our perspectives are different. And so I jumped onto Jacob's live stream yesterday. And of course, Jacob's a prickly guy. And you know, some might argue that Jacob struggles to embody the kind of CRC spirit that, let's say, Hezi embodies better. But part of what's true is that there is an aspect of the TLC that Jacob embodies better than Hezi, because Jacob gets angry and storms off and won't be on a live stream with Mark or with Nathan, or because that's a reality in life. And in reality, real relationships handle those kinds of tensions. And so I think deep at the heart of the TLC is relationality. That's part of why Luke is so deeply TLC, and why Tayo is so deeply TLC, and why when Neil said he wanted to become Chad's friend, that was deeply TLC, because there's a deep relationality that we understand has to transcend hugely important differences that we might have, because we also understand that we are creatures in process. And that process requires talking about the Trinity or universalism or the politics that are swirling around with incredibly divisive people like Donald Trump or Barack Obama or Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi or Elon Musk. We have to talk about these things. But if we're going to talk about these things in any way that we're going to discover to be productive and satisfying, there's going to have to be a culture around that. And I think that's exactly what the TLC has done. And not in a way of, you mentioned the church lady, because there's a church lady spirit that just says, what you say doesn't matter. No, what you say does matter. And so we have to talk about it. But we can't have it break the relations, if at all possible. In my video that I did about the CRC, one of the things that I recognized, what made the CRC so important in its third major chapter, in the Boomer chapter in which I grew up in, was the familial strength of the second chapter, the H.J. Kuiper chapter, that let the CRC survive the women in office wars, and with great cost. And so now we've got the same-sex marriage wars, but we have to disagree without being disagreeable and without being patronizing or shallow. And I think YouTube is helpful with that, because there's nothing shallow about the TLC. My goodness, it's wonky, nerdy, but what really holds it together is love. That's always the key. And so I think, Mark, what you discovered, and I think that's what keeps people here, which is that, okay, we have disagreements, and people can leave. Okay, I don't know where Steve McGee went. It's not like he's
I didn't listen to that one.
Yeah, that's played a lot. I just got taken to task on Jacob's live stream. Paul, if you'd only listened to my channel, I said, Jacob, I had a dime for every time a TLCer says that. Yeah, anyway, I've talked too long. I have to get this video ready. I've got men's Bible study tonight. So
Sure. Now,
I'm going to play here to lift the telethon.
Right. You're off the hook. I appreciate it. I'm going to play some official Chicago style Midwestuary, get Tayo to Midwestuary branding.
You said you wanted to know how to get
Tayo.
Do you really want to get him? You see what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do?
Everything within the law.
And then what are you prepared to do? That's the Chicago way.
That's the Chicago way. I've only got a few other brandings left to play. If you're just tuning in, if you haven't heard of Midwestuary, you can go to www.midwestuary.com. The site is up and running. We are expecting about 400 people. And the guest list is Mr. Paul Vanderklay here, but also Cale Zeldin, Rod Dreer, Elizabeth Oldfield, Jonathan Pajot, and John Vervaeke. And we are also going to have estuary-style breakout sessions where people get a chance to see how estuary actually works and know and be known and make friends. And the theme of the conference is Fellowship of the Spirit. What does it mean to be seeking fellowship? I think that comes from Philippians. I could be wrong about that.
It comes from, it's at the end of 2 Corinthians.
Second,
Also it's on the very last page of the big book. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit.
yeah.
Which,
And that
of
was
course,
Chad.
it started in the big book, and then the Bible took it from the big book.
Yes. Yeah, that's some
Oh, wait,
AA
no.
mythology
Wait.
there. But yeah. And Tayo, if you're not particularly familiar with Tayo, so I first met Tayo probably a little over a year ago now. He's one of the first people that I met on TLC. And I had just gotten to know Chad. I'd come out of the lurk. And Chad said, why don't we do we called it our meandering show, but why don't we do that with Tayo? And Tayo was talking about fellowship even back then. Here's Chad, but
He also picked out when Jonathan mentioned that he's not trying to build a community, and she recognized how that's.
Yeah, so what we were talking about here is how Jonathan was not trying to build a community. And then we had this debate on whether PVK was trying to build a community. And so I answer in that debate, I answer in this discussion. I said no, because I thought when PVK first started doing his Jordan Peterson bit, I think you were just exploring. I think you were just trying to figure out what was going on with Peterson and interested in that, and why young men were interested in Genesis of all things. And then as the connections were being made, then I think your pastoral instincts clicked on, and probably people like Rod Hare and John Van Donk gave you a good kick in the patootie, but that's my guess. All speculating.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I just did something. And then as things developed, within the first month and a half, I began to realize, holy cow, there's a lot of lonely people out there that are dying to have a conversation with each other. So we started the meetups. And then Vindank and I were helping other meetups start. And then Peterson gets sick. And then it's and then it's the estuary protocol. And this is how this thing got going. But it's not, I just said to Cassidy, it's not just me. Grim Grizz did the branding idea and the virtually not alone, and Chad has done a ton of branding, and Karen, and this is truly, and has always been, a community effort. And Sam and Luke and all of these people, and now the German estuary with Matteo and Dave and Cassidy and Tayo in the UK, and someone's now starting one in in Wales. And I mean, this has always been and this is what's different from the other channels. You know, when I talk to a YouTuber like I did with Gospel Simplicity, they're all a little mysterious about how did that get going in real life? And that's only one aspect. The other aspect of it is how can we have a flotilla with all of these channels that have so few subs? But so I found, is it CC Mule, who's been over on McMo's live stream?
Yeah, you found her channel?
I found her channel. And you know, it's bit by bit finding these new channels, finding these new voices out there, and helping us find each other, so that you might not have 100 subs, or you might not have 1,000 subs. You know, we just got Kale over 1,000, and so now we can monetize, and that's a little bit of help. But of course, it's not big money at all. So it's bit by bit. We try to bring the people together. And everybody adds something to it. In many ways, the TLC is like a YouTube potluck. Everybody's bringing a different dish. And, you know, it's really wonderful. And it's so church-like. But, you know, as tomorrow's video, you know, what is the church? That's what Paul Kingsnorth is trying to figure out. What is the Christian life? How does this work? And you know, one of the questions that has been lurking behind the TLC the whole time is is its relationship with the church. What's Estuary's relationship with the church? And maybe we should be asking what the relationship is between the TLC and the kingdom of God. Because I think a lot of what is drawing people into the TLC, yeah, it's emergent church like it is, but it's something of the kingdom of God is here. And people are sensing it and they're drawn to it. And again, the key thing is, yeah, we're adding viewers and viewers are needed, but it's like a church. A movie theater is not a church. A church is the body of Christ because, well, sometimes you watch the sermon or you watch the priest but the church is everybody doing something and contributing something and making space for the different ones. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, one thing I've thought about is video games, because this is like a video game, but it's not so much a game. And we have kind of a corner of the corner that's specifically gamers, that's centralized, I would say, around Afrael Pilotson. And Grim Grizz is part of that too, but it's Afrael, it's Lucarius, a few other people. And also Noah Foxman. And what's interesting is that many video gamers, where they as they grow up into adults, what keeps them in a certain video game ecosystem is the friendships and the doing, like the vanquishing the dragons and the doing the quests as a team, as a group of people that you like. And then it is real because it actually affects you and changes you in relation to those other people that you're in contact with. But then it's like, are we like the next level of video game where we're in between an imaginary video game world, and this is still a video game, but it's halfway in between an imaginary video game world and church, and we're sort of bridging that gap somehow. And I think there's a real opportunity for Pipeline with video gamers like 20 somethings turning into 30 somethings, because already there's a trend of big time video game. So real quick, Twitch came out in, I think, like 2012, something like that, the streaming platform. And you might think, like, why would people spend all this time watching people play video games? And it's something about that virtual not alone. Like, there's something that everybody loves, and they're watching someone who's really good at it play it with all these other people watching. But what's happened is those really good gamers back in 2012 to 2015 have now grown up. And they're like 30 years old, but they kept their audience of hundreds of thousands of mostly young men who are now in their late 20s, early 30s. And what I've noticed happening is that those like megastar gamers are now much more talking about politics, philosophy, all this stuff. And it's like, you're almost there. Like you're moving into the world of the stuff that matters, but you're still in the sense and not in the dollars of religion. You're in the sense of politics and this. And it's like, how can we be the next level up. Like you reached level 5. Go, whatever that next level is. And I see that for, let's say, men in the video game space, and I see that potentially for women in the social media space, because this gets back to what Mark S was talking about, which is the kindness in a space that's actually hospitable and cares about the person. And that's Luke Thompson right there. But it's like, no matter how hard we argue, we can only argue or debate insofar as we have a strong enough fellowship to support the hammering of the argument. And that's what it seems to be. I mean, occasionally we break that, but then somehow we seem to mend it. And it's that doggone it, that forgiveness that keeps lurking its ugly head.
Yeah. You should put us into the small boxes. It's the little setting below.
Which one? No, not that one. No, wait, which one? This one.
There you go.
Oh, I can see Mark S much more clearly now. Thank you.
Now we can see Mark
tip.
better.
Face reveal.
No, and that's right.
Oh.
The TLC is not a church, and that's why. But there's something of the kingdom of God moving in it and through it, and I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe that.
Well, I mean, I was away from Christianity for 20 years, and I can't, and now I'm like back in, like, so I'm back, and like, I cannot imagine that happening without the TLC. This is, like, I don't know how long ago it was. I feel like I've lived 5 years in the past 6 months, but, I'm kind of aware of Chad's channel. I'd check out his stuff every now and then. And one time he had Mark Parker on, doing a rando, and it was like right at the time in my life where I felt like I had no one to talk to that knew what I was talking about. Like, everybody I talked to would be like, that doesn't make any sense. Why do you care about that? And it's like, you don't get like what I come from, And Mark Parker, he like, the stuff he was talking about was exactly the stuff, like, he knew all of my concerns. Like, he didn't have the answer to all of my concerns, but he understood all my concerns. And so I just started like sending him all these messages, man, I gotta talk to you, man, And that was kind of when I started really getting more into following the TLC, and it was that relationship started, Chad, I was friends with before, and then Parker, and he was a godsend, and then through your interview with Richard Beck, I mean, that actually meant a lot for this is stuff that I never would have come across. It's helped, it's eased me back into the church, and in a way that would have probably been a lot more bumpy if it hadn't been for the space. I honestly cannot imagine it, like, coming back into church without it, and just getting these different points of view. And because sometimes what I was raised with is very much, we have all the answers, and they do have some a lot of good answers, but I can't live in that space. I can't like live in that and I just need to hear a good argument from an Eastern Orthodox, or from a Calvinist, or whatever, and something that, like, a good, just to keep me confident in the fact that I don't know everything, if that makes sense. Because, like, sometimes I'll think I know everything, and it's like the worst thing for me. I like it here because there's like tons of people who are way more accomplished in life, well educated, and it's like I can challenge, can I hang with this crowd, and can I just get these different points of view. And one thing I've thought about is one of my favorite YouTube channels of all time is the channel for the Musicians Hall of Fame. It's the musicians, all the background musicians, like the Wrecking Crew and the Nashville A Team and all. And so they interview all the guys, like, oh, who played pedal steel on George Jones's 1960s recording, whatever. And I've always been a music nerd, but I enjoy those interviews like 10 times more than an interview with George Jones or something, or Bob Dylan, because they have such an ego and such a thing to sell. But the musicians, they're actually doing the creative work. They are, and also they're in the background, so they don't have to guard themselves. So it's like if I watch something with Jordan Peterson or Jonathan Pajot, they have like all um these guards up, and they have to protect themselves. But like people in the TLC, they just say all sorts of stuff, and they're a lot more open. And I think people in the TLC are just as interesting as those people too. It's like you watch some live stream and two people are talking about their dogs for a half hour, and then all of a sudden they just say something that like blows your mind, but you had to listen to them talk about their dog for a half hour to get to it. So to me, this is kind of like the background musicians who are doing the real work.
But we're very intimidating. We have very intimidating liturgies. And at least here on the Friday Morning Nameless, once your mom buys you a new pewter and you want to come into the space, you got to go through the...
Nikon! Lord Nikon, this is Crash Override.
Never heard of you. Done anything?
No. Come on! Hate this neighborhood.
What, your mom buy you a pewter for Christmas? Does he know anything?
Sure, man, he's elite.
Come in.
Nikon came. Can I crash your place tonight?
Again? Yeah, sure.
That's from a very random movie called Hackers. It's an awesome, awesome throwback to the 90s. Yeah, that's how we get gamers.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. No, but I think what you said, Mark, is really true. It's one thing I noted. High status hierarchies bind and blind. High status people have to be very careful what they say. High status people have to repeat themselves often, because what they're doing generally is popularizing a message. And if you're speaking to large numbers of people, you have to repeat over and over and over and over and over again to get the message through. That's a function of the context of communication. In this rando space, people are likely to say anything. And it's almost never, this is the point, of course, that poor T-Grog is struggling with. The point isn't what the person says. The point is how you hear what the person says. Because if you listen enough for long enough, you'll realize that you might have heard something 3, 4, 5, 6 times, but this time when you heard it said, it was different. Because the context was different, and you were different, and maybe that other person was different, or you knew them differently, and so now suddenly that's where facts come from. They come from the in-between. They're not just sitting out there floating and you grab them. That was the world of John Locke. That was wrong. Science says wrong. You can meme that up if you want to. So you're exactly right that, well, sometimes you got to drag through a whole bunch of small talk, but actually, again, small talk in the TLC on these live, low-viewed live streams is a feature, not a bug. Because what people are doing, okay, so maybe you're a universalist and you believe in hell, and maybe you believe in the Trinity, and Jacob or Sam doesn't. But it's the small talk. It's finding all of these common little connections. Oh, you like dogs too. What kind of dogs do you like? Oh, you had a dog. Oh, Mark got bit by a dog. Or boom, boom, boom. When you graft a bone, when a bone has been broken, it's all these tiny little micro connections. And that's what happens with small talk, where people are finding each other and they're finding 1,000 little things that they like about the other until they encounter one big thing they don't like. And it's those 1,000 little things that keep them together so that they can stay in the same pool while they negotiate the big thing.
I've got to run here in a couple minutes, pick up my daughter from something, but
I got to
do
run
have some
too.
branding to close. Yeah, sorry for taking up so much of your time, sir, but we appreciate it. Mark S., it's always great as always. We got to do a rando at some point.
Thanks.
Because yeah, he did one with Chad, but not with me. So
I was a different man then.
I guess you got to do another one. So what's this branding going to be? I'm waiting with bated breath.
Oh, you don't know, but here we go. Let's do it.
So there you go. There you got it. So that's it for now.
Land the plane.
Land the plane. One love.
One love.
Randy.
Any last words, and then I will end the stream. But
I feel so deeply grateful, and again, people point to me and they give me credit, which is fine. There's, I've certainly had a part to play, but what's beautiful about this space is the contributions of how many people. And that is, I love it that there are many friendships that have never touched me, but they are between each other. And that's beautiful. That's what makes community. So it's great.
Mr. Mock.
No. Much love.
Thank you, Mark. You too. Have
Thank
a good night, all.
All right.
Midwestuary 2025 Fellowship of the Spirit.
Well, I don't know about the meaning crisis, left, right, black, white, or other vices. Which Jesus Christ is right, or if we're all saved. From my perspective, our propositions participate procedurally, running in circles. We're in body, we're in the age of decay. Symbolically speaking, the reapers are reaping, them damn egregores are whispering sweetly. We're all NPCs in the belly of the beast. Red pill, blue pill, bread pill, Mars Hill, or DMT, or whatever you feel. Got one and number two, it's all the same damn thing. So clean your room, repent on Zoom, ontology for dummies, a bird's eye view. 'Cause if you really knew, could you really even say? Totally depraved, all totally saved. A total disposition from the bed we all made. Or is it the elect? Or are we just insane? From John Vervaeke to Jonathan Pajot and Jordan Peterson to the Chris Pacou Show. Paul Vanderklays and Griswold Grimm and all the dice he shakes. This estuary ditty is a little bit cringy, ain't quite the U-shaped or the hero's journey. All the NPCs in the flood treading water to watch you save the day with a bunch of chitter-chatter. From the ortho bros to the Catholic Joes, or atheistic Jobs, to Protestant folks, the Joe Schmoes, and Jewish Jacobs, and everything in between. So love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, with all your mind and your fingers and toes, all your neighbors too, as if they were your own. So love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, and with all your mind and your fingers and toes, all your neighbors too, as if they were your own.